Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Object of Your Gaze podcast. This is a podcast where we assess our gaze and our gaze. That mean, where's your affection? Where's your attention? And it's important that we assess where those things are because it determines how we live our lives and how we think about God and all that He is doing. So today we are continuing with starting again. This is part 2 on our topic starting again. And last week we talked about starting again as doing something that we've never done before. And many times it can feel scary. And oftentimes it's also not by choice. Life forces us to start again or start a new chapter. And so we talked about how Abraham, who is a father of faith in the Bible, was able to navigate starting again when God called him to a new place, a new land. And we also talked about how we have the permission to start again, we have the permission to evolve. And also, we can call on God. He will answer us when we're confused, when we're unsure, when we're just like, God, this feels hard. Help us. So that's the things we talked about last week. So today we'll be continuing and just picking up from where we stopped, back to Abraham. Abraham had a lot of things that he did that helped him, navigate this new chapter. And one of the things I wanted to point out was trust in God. One thing I want to mention is that I feel like we say we trust God, but I'm not sure sometimes, even I'm not sure that we really do. So one thing I just want to remind you of is you can trust God. So you can trust God. And one of the verses in Genesis chapter 12, verse 4, it says, so Abraham went. This was after God had called him out of his father's land to a new land. And so he said, Abraham went, he answered, right, as the Lord had told him. So Abraham obeyed God, right? But did he just obey God because he wanted to? I don't think so. I think he obeyed God because he trusted God. He trusted God. That word, trust. And I think sometimes trust is hard. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. It's just different. It's just, God, why should I trust you? But I think something I think about when I think about the word trust is I think of track record. Look at your life and look at how God has been faithful. Look at your life and see how God has taken you this far. Even though you're in a situation where you feel like you shouldn't be, or you're starting again when you feel like you shouldn't be, you can trust God because He has kept you and He has taken you through the hardest times of your life, or the harder times of your life if this present moment feels like the hardest. And you can trust God. You do not have to rely on yourself. You can rely on God because He is trustworthy. And He says, blessed is the man who trusts in Him. Like, blessed is the man who trusts in God. And honestly, if you don't trust in God, you can actually ask for help to trust God. And that's something I do a lot. It's like, God, I do not trust you right now. I need help. And the second thing I feel like we can learn from this story is community. You need community. In a new chapter, I feel like sometimes, okay, let me give a caveat. Sometimes when God calls us to something new or when things happen that is out of our control, right? We might be called to start, doing that thing alone. Like it might be a lonely season, right? And that doesn't mean it's not God's will. It might be that God has called you to do this thing alone initially, right? So that's just a caveat. But generally, we need community. We need people. And I want to emphasize in after it says in verse 4 that Abraham listened to God and obeyed God, he said Lot went with him. And in verse 5, he said he took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had, and the people they acquired in Haran. So Abraham didn't go alone. He went with people. He went with his wife, his cousin, the people around him, I think his workers. So you do not have to go on this journey alone. And sometimes, honestly, starting again, like example, moving to a new place, you might have to make new friends. So you'll have to be more intentional about that. You don't want to start a new chapter alone, because the Bible says, exhort each other daily, as long as today is called today, right? So that you are not hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Yeah, and your heart is not hardened. You need people so that your heart is not hardened by the lies of the enemy or sin, so that you are covered by people. You can confess your sin to people. You can be counseled by people. You do not want to do life alone. And if you're struggling making friends, or you feel like if you've moved to a new place, you're finding friends, pray for friends. God will give you. It will take time. It will take time, but God will give you. So that's something I just wanted to point out, is that you don't want to do a new chapter alone, because that's hard. It makes it harder. It makes it more unbearable. I would add to that. And my last point would be to seek wisdom. So the point of a new chapter or starting again is that you do not know what you're doing, or like it's different from what you've done before, right? So you need wisdom. You need books. You need mentorship. You need friends. You need people who have gone ahead, and you need wisdom from God. In James 1 verse 5, obviously, right? In the Bible, we need to reference it. Is that if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, because he gives freely without reproach. So God gives generously. God asks, if you need wisdom, God will give you. And he will also give you from the people around. So that's why you also need people around you, right? So seeking wisdom is very important, because you do not want to do this new phase alone, because you can avoid some errors and some pitfalls that are unnecessary. So yeah, I just hope this encouraged you. I've just been thinking about starting again. It's something that we'll do a lot in our life. Like, you're gonna start again a lot of times. You're gonna move to new places. You're gonna change friend group. You're gonna change jobs. You're gonna just change is constant, right? So I feel like Abraham is a good case study, to pay attention to just be like, what, I do not have to do this alone. I can call on the name of God. I can trust him. I can seek wisdom from God and the people around me. So yeah, I just hope that this is a blessing to you. And remember, keep your gaze on Jesus, because he's the one that matters. And anytime you need anything, call on his name. He will answer you, because he's faithful and he's trustworthy. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye.